I would like to welcome on stage with us Johnny Boufarhat, the CEO and founder of Hopin. Johnny, welcome.
Hello, Marian. Thanks so much for having me.
Johnny, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, especially because what you're doing is groundbreaking at many layers. And I just want to ask you, are you just now jumping from a conference to a conference, or are you doing some work as well?
Honestly, right now, jumping from a conference to a conference. But in general, I get to do a little bit of work, let's say.
Okay, because
it's been an insane year.
Yeah, I've seen your conference. You had like a celebratory event just earlier today, right?
Yeah, it's still on now. It's still on now. I've been back and forth.
I saw there's almost 10,000 attendees there, so congrats! It's a smashing event. Johnny, let's start because I know we have a hard stop at is it like 6:50? So we have to go. And
yeah.
I want to ask you. Let's start from the beginning. So you finished your university. Was it like 4 years ago or 5 years ago?
I finished university 2016 is when I ended university. So I think about 5 years.
And you learned coding when you were a child. So Hopin is not your first company. You developed an app before, and I heard you mention somewhere that you had like a small exit. Can you tell us about your experience with this app and how did it propel you forward?
So I was in my second year of university, and I realized that I was studying mechanical engineering at the University of Manchester, and I didn't like studying. So in my free time, I would code. I enjoyed coding. It was really, really enjoyable. And so I made a small app that was supposed to be a side project. And I've been coding since I was younger. But I was very much like in and out of it, making small forms. But when I was in university is when truly I realized the value of extra pocket money and things like that. So after I'd made the app, it was basically an app for students to connect with restaurants in the metropolitan area. And if they did a social tag, it would automatically unlock for them like a discount from the restaurant. So Imagine, Marian, that you're at a Burger King. If we had a relationship with Burger King, which is we would sign agreements with little restaurants in the area and little, basically, if you're a student, you had this thing, you'd social tag and a social tag on Twitter or whatever, and it would automatically verify that you've done that so that you tweeted about this. And then the app would unlock the discount and it would be registered. So
it was like a hip version of Foursquare.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it was just for university students. There was a membership on one side, and it was like much more like targeted to shisha cafes and restaurants and like very like student clubs, etc. It was quite.
And who bought the app from you?
It was an event. Funniest thing about it was, looking back, is that it was an events company. I can't share the name because it was under, but it was, the main thing, they weren't interested actually in that was the upsetting thing. They weren't interested in the technology, I found out. They were actually more interested in the amount of users that we had because they were targeting students for their clubbing events. And so they wanted to be able to get this large user base, which at the time, I don't know if it would pass now for GDPR reasons, but at the time, it was no problem.
Fair enough. Okay, so then you developed this app, you sold it, and what happened next? How did you come up with the idea for Hopin, and how did you start doing it?
Well, so I graduated university. I had started for about 6 months. I tried working at a management consultancy. Was my first job after graduating. I had accepted a job and I'd done a bit there. I didn't like it, and so I left, and I then switched over to a mechanical engineering company. And so that because that's what I studied, so I thought maybe I'll do that more. And then I did that for 3 months, and I hated it. And so I was about to quit. And then what happened was I got sick due to a food poisoning. That food poisoning turned into some autoimmune issues because I had taken too many antibiotics. So don't take too many antibiotics is my recommendation. It led to lots of autoimmune issues that kept me stuck at home for about 2 years, being incredibly ill. Luckily for me, I was able to pay some bills through software, paying because you know that's the benefit of remote. It's accessible. I don't have to go anywhere to work. I was able to do make a little bit of money from home. Now, in those 2 years, it was almost towards the end of those first 2 years, I started to recover. And then I had spent so much time at home that I wanted to connect with people at events. I wanted to attend events. I wanted to be able to do that from my house when I'm feeling uncomfortable because I tend to get autoimmune issues. So what I had done was build this basics of this platform that is essentially, I don't know if you remember Chat Roulette. It's probably better if you don't remember Chat Roulette. But if you do remember Chat Roulette, it was basically chat roulette for communities. That was what I built, and it received a lot of traction. And so as I recovered, I realized I needed to raise some money, and because it was a very, very big opportunity, a lot of people were converting, and I needed to build out and continue building out the product because there's demand to be able to accessibly attend high quality events at home. Because if you think about it, attending an event online, you know, there's no networking features on a webinar. So using like Zoom or etc., they're not valuable events. People attend events for the networking. They attend for the expos. They attend to actually engage, and not just to hear content. And so that was our big picture. Is that the content is one part of it, but the networking is the second and probably most important. And so that's what we wanted to solve for virtual.
In about 2015, I wanted to build something which would bring people to virtual conferences. Believe it or not, at the time, there was not much appetite for virtual conferencing because people just could go anywhere in person. And then a few years back, you started doing it, and then something happened. And you started coding this product yourself. And how did you come to the first client? How much time did it take you from the very start? Was it like 10 months until the first customer?
Yeah, it was about 10. Well, no, it was about 6 months until the first customer. The problem is convincing the first customer to use it. That's the problem. People wouldn't try something that's free or used or whatever. So
was the first customer a speed dating site or speed dating company?
Exactly. So the first paying customer was actually a speed dating company because at the time, they were the ones who were most looking for new technologies because Tinder was taking a lot away from them and all these other apps. So they're like, I gave them a pitch. They liked the product. And actually, and this is a big advice for startup founders, because they were paying me and they were my only customer, I actually changed the platform for about 3 months. And that was a waste of time. Changing the platform to red colors, like the entire Hopin.
Wow.
I changed the name to Quinn. I said it's a speed dating events company platform because I was like, whoa, this is the space that I need to be in a dating space because they're more willing to pay. And it just wasn't the reason. I just didn't have a big enough network in business events. And so,
how much did it take you to realize there are other opportunities in this space for this product?
I always knew there was, but I just couldn't get to a customer. And so I thought the man was dating. But then I spent 3 months doing it in dating, and then it came to me. I remember we had just signed a deal that was like about $8,000, and I was so happy because I was like, "Whoa, this is just me," and I made $8,000 on this app, from one customer who's the speed dating. But I quickly realized that, the people that were people that were attending the events were typing messages like. Were sending me emails, after the event and sending me messages like, hey, I would love to use this. Do you have a business version of this platform? Like something that's less, red. And
were you thinking about white labeling it for, others to brand it, or you always wanted to build your own brand on that?
I wanted to build my own brand because the conversion doesn't exist. If you don't have your own brand, if you white label your platform, you are, in most cases, losing a lot of the virality and growth that you get. So I'm willing to do it for an enterprise customer who's paying, significant amounts of money. But if you're early stage and you have a platform, you need to find your virality somewhere. The reason Hopin has scaled to, be this fast a growing company is purely virality. We spent $0 in marketing our product.
Yes, but I have to say, Johnny, that you're a very good businessman, because when I asked you to speak, your first question was, are you going to be doing this on Hopin? And not many people think like that, I really like that, because this is, down to earth, just you breathe and you live with your Hopin brand, which is great. So big congrats on that. I want to ask you, because there are some rumors flying around about Hopin coming from 0 to 1 million ARR in some crazy number of, it's a very short time. How long was that until you went from 0 to 1 million in ARR?
0 to 1 million from launch, 1 month.
That's incredible. And how did you do it? Was it like a massive customer you signed up for the next 20 years, or you had many customers?
People are being a little, are trying to take away. So like we launched in February 2020, but I had been working on the platform for about 2 years before that. So if you think about or 1.5 years, so really it took us, for our first 1 million, took us 1-2 years, but on, official launch was February 2020. And we had a wait list of customers at the time. So before February, we had a wait list. We were doing, I don't know if you've seen, and this is a good thing for founders to look at. If you have a product that you think needs demand, go for a wait list.
Yes. Let's zoom in on that, because this is a genius idea. And, companies like Superhuman and guys like that are using that successfully. And you are one of them who really use it successfully. Your reasoning was that your basic feature doesn't enable support, and because your team was not very big, that's why you wanted to build a waiting list. How did you see the increase in demand in February? That there are people just flocking in because there's a pandemic, and how did you use this waiting list, and how would you advise other startups to use the mechanics of that in the simplest possible way?
So what I would recommend for the waiting list is use each customer and use it. Unfortunately, you need to be a great storyteller or salesperson in most cases for your startup, if you're a founder, or you need to hire someone that is, if you're the technical co-founder. And so what we did was basically just, the value wasn't in the wait list. The wait list comes when people feel like something's exclusive. When something's exclusive, they're more likely to want to sign up. It's much easier to put just an email in than try the product completely. So people will just go on the website, put their email in, and then, just when they open it up, I'll take a look. And so if you send them, hey, you've gotten access to the product, 2 weeks later, even though you don't have you could wait, you could have given them to immediately. It adds a level of demand, and also allows they're more willing to allow you to track them. So it's they're more willing to allow you to basically follow them through the platform. So, hey, how did you find it? They know it's early stage, etc., and makes them feel closer to the brand. So we did that with up to about 40,000 organizers. And Hopin's a bit different because we got to that number very quickly because of the viral rate. The number one thing I would ask all founders who's launching a company is what can you do to improve your viral rate? And what that means is, like Miro, they found out, and I'm good friends with the CEO from there, and it was an early lesson for me that he explained was, they found out that designers were the most likely people to use the product, but not more important than that, to promote their product to other people. So find the customer, not only who's the customer, but also who's the most viral customer. Is it the people that are using your product for one use case or another? And find that and focus on them, especially early.
That's a useful idea, very useful. You are a founder who is very product driven, which I like a lot. Yet you only spend about 20% of your time on product because you have to hire people. Do you still hire as massively as you used to last year, or this changed?
Yeah, so we went from about 10 to 500 people, 400 people last year, and this year we're planning 400 people last year. We ended the year 400, and I think this year we'll go from 400 to 1,000. So it is smaller if you think about it. We went from a 400x increase last year to only a 2.5x this year.
Okay. Do you still know the names of all your colleagues?
No, definitely not. I think after 150, it becomes very difficult.
Bet, yeah. Okay, yeah. And so you still do the hiring yourself, or you just set the values for which you want to hire, and you let it to your team to do it?
I set the values, and then we have an executive team that that's the number one thing. Hiring is the most important thing. Okay, we talked about getting your startup, getting the first customers, growing to a stage. The next most important thing after in terms of scaling is hiring. If you're not going to know everything about your startup, you're not going to be the best marketer, the best designer, the best, and you don't need to be. Actually, you don't need to be the best at anything to be the CEO. All you need to do is be the best hirer. And if you hire those people, you convince them to join, and then you have in each of those roles the right people, and they will hire the right people after that.
Yes. So Johnny, your company is really growing like extremely fast. Are you not worried that it's going to crumble and there's going to be some cracks in the culture? Because, for example, when we had the founder of WeWork at a conference a couple of years ago, he was saying that they grew so fast that about 7% of the team were not the right culture fit, and they had to then let some people go, and it was misunderstood. How do you go about making sure the culture fit is right? And do you double check the people who already came in as you are hiring so fast?
Yeah. So absolutely. So there's some key things. Am I worried about Hopin failing? No. But I'm always anxious. As a CEO, you need to be anxious about everything. So I in my opinion, so I'm anxious about everything. I'm anxious. Every time an event runs, I want it to be perfect. I want everyone to have a perfect experience. Now, from a hiring perspective, we've hired really quickly, but we've also hired. So one of the best advice I got early stage when we're hiring so quickly, I asked Peter Thiel. He won a Founders Fund. I was meeting Founders Fund, and he gave me some advice. I asked him, "Hey, we're hiring this quickly. How do I make sure that I'm attracting the best talent?" He said, find the best people on your team, which ideally is everybody on your team, but find the best people and ask them to refer the best people they know and push them to refer the best people they know. Because if the talented people on your team are going to bring in or refer other people, you're likely that they will be bringing in talented people as well. Yep. And that's what's really happened. About 60% of our hires have come from referrals, I believe. And so it's been a big, I think, this might be wrong now. I think it was an earlier statistic, but in the early days. And so that was a very big deal for us in making sure we're hiring the right people and very good people. And on top of that, till nowadays, we have a very stringent, when you hire a good VP of people and a good people team, they set up a very stringent interviewing process. So now I would say it's much more formal.
Okay, and now since you are hiring so many people, do you work with multiple agencies, or you still want to hire through internal connections?
So now we don't work with agencies as often. We've worked with Talentful, and I think we're still working with Talentful. They've been great, but overall, we work with the majority of people. The majority of our recruiting is coming from a 22-person recruitment team that we have that are using job boards, etc., to pick people out.
Okay, great. Johnny, I want to spend a minute about your values because I love them. You hire proactive people with low ego who are international. Tell us, how do you define proactive and how do you screen for low ego?
So low ego, it's very clear, Marian. I can tell you it's all in the subtle hints that you get in interviews. So for example, you get people that you ask them, so an interview question like, tell us a time that you really struggled or that something bad happened at your company, and how did you react? And typically, if someone's low ego, they will say what they did wrong, and say they learned from it. But if someone's not low ego or doesn't have the perfect culture fit, and maybe this is a hack, is they'll say something, and I'm just giving the example of, they'll backhandedly, so they'll say, yeah, we made this big mistake, but at the end they have to save face. They have to say, but I sorted it out, but I fixed it. But Nobody in every situation fixes everything. Everyone just goes through a complete.
Nobody's perfect. Yes, I agree.
So it's about that self-security that they're like, I'm great now, but I don't need to. They asked me for a negative about myself, and I'm going to tell them without saying something great about myself. And that's when you could tell someone is low ego. It's the self-security. On top of that, in proactive, the number two thing is how they discuss themselves. I mean, one of the key questions we ask them is, what are your priorities in life? And you can tell when someone says, their ambition, et cetera, it just means that they're ready to move at a high pace. So that's the sort of stuff we look for.
Awesome. I want to ask you about, the fundraising has been like a super fast process in your case. Tell us about your first fundraise and how quickly did you get to Accel investing $5 million after that? Okay,
so our first fundraise, I can tell you about fundraising. So it took me 6 months to get an investor to answer me. I had sent emails.
Can you tell us which one?
Huh?
Can you tell us which investor?
Oh, yeah, I'll get to it. So a little story on this. We went to, I spent the first 6 months trying to find investors, sent them a bunch of emails. Nobody would answer, truly. From Seed Camp, all of them, Y Combinator, no one answered. They thought it was, some people actually did email back and say, I don't think it's a good idea. After 6 months, I met someone at an event, funnily enough, an angel investor. The angel investor said to me, I won't invest, but I'll introduce you to someone who might want to invest. They introduced me to that person. He said, I'll invest $25,000, but find a venture capitalist that will invest. I said, I don't know any venture capitalists. They don't answer my emails. And he said, okay, let me warmly introduce you to one of them. He warmly introduced me to one of the venture capitalists that had rejected me previously. And because it came from an introduction from an angel, and they gave me an actual time to do a demo, then they were very willing to invest. And that was Seed Camp. And so what I'll say, and Seed Camp is a world-class investor. And so what I'll say, my advice for there is come in through warm connection. Don't send email. Find someone, maybe it's the CEO of a small startup or something that can introduce you to an investor. Send them the pitch deck, not the VC themselves.
And how big was the first round where Seed Camp came in?
$180,000.
And how far did it get you?
We were profitable until December, so it didn't make any difference for December of last 2020. But 2 months later, we raised another round with Accel at $5 million, which tells £5 million, so $8 million, which tells you how useless that first round was.
But it's important step to make sure you can deliver. And but I like the fact that you already steered the company to be profitable. How did you get to Accel, and how did they get to listen to you and take a meeting?
So this is an easy one. Get the first venture capitalist or get your first round done. Raising money means you're probably the whoever invested in you, especially if they're tech orientated, are going to have their own networks, because you go in with it like Seed Camp. Seed Camp's job is to feed you to Accel or Northzone or Index or etc. So that's their job. So as soon as they think you're good, like they're going to start pinging Index, like, hey, you should meet one of our companies. So I didn't have to speak. Accel just reached out to me. After a while, all of these people just reach out to you if your business is doing well and you have a decent investor that has their own network. So the key thing that I tell founders all the time is that it's that first one. Just get in the door. Getting in the door is hard. Once you're in the door, it becomes easy.
How many meetings did you have before you closed the round? Because sometimes you have to take lots of meetings, and it takes a long time. And many founders just fail along this journey because they seem to be fundraising for 2 years. You did do it very quickly. How many meetings did you need to take before you closed Accel, for example?
Accel, for example, I had four meetings. I met the partners twice. And then I did a partnership meeting, which so I met 2 individual one-to-one meetings, or 2-to-1, where I did 2 demos. And then there was a big one to their whole partnership. And then they had gave me an offer, and then that was the 4th meeting was the final acceptance when we hit the right terms.
Very good.
So that was 4.
Okay, Johnny, I want to ask you some questions which we could say, are devil's advocate questions. You build your company as a remote friendly company, right? And you also mentioned it's sometimes harder to build a company remotely than it is to build it physically. What have you learned from this approach? Do you want to keep it, or after the pandemic's over, you still want to have a big HQ where you can meet with all the people at the same time?
I would say 100% we're going to stay remote. And I'll tell you, from my perspective, if you want to be more efficient and more productive in your company, then go remote. If you want to be more social in your company, then go in person. It's a founder's decision, but I think the right decision for your business early stage is always remote. You can attract more talent from all over the world. You can, people are naturally, there's been some discussions about on productivity. It depends on what space, but yes, the key thing is the talent. You're able to attract talent from all over the world. You're able to, especially if you live in a country like a city like San Francisco, hiring a developer in San Francisco will sometimes cost you more than your funding round. So you need to think about where you're attracting talent as well.
That's fair enough. You wanted to build your company, and I hear you're very passionate about reducing carbon footprint as well. Do you want to have Hopin as a virtual platform only, or you also want to focus on hybrid events? And how does it affect your carbon reducing strategy or mission?
Marian, that's a great question. So we want to focus on, so yes, we care a lot about the environment. The number one thing though Hopin cares about is accessibility. It came from a problem for me, and I guess maybe it's because it's more personal to me. My personal, and environment's an important one. I'm not saying that it's incredibly important, but the number one thing for me is that I was not able to access events because I was too sick and I was at home. So we care a lot about accessibility. Now, from that perspective, we want it to be accessible for everyone. So we're never going to go completely in person. You're never going to see us build technology for the completely in person. Who knows? But most likely not. But you will see us build technology for virtual and hybrid, because hybrid still allows people to attend from wherever they are across the globe. That's the whole basis of hybrid. So in that way, I think, one, it's better for the environment because less people are going in person because they're more capable to stay at home and watch, or etc. But also you're able to attract, and it's a lot more accessible to anyone no matter where they are in the world. And accessibility is key. I think that's the game changer coming up, is that you won't need to raise venture capital, as an example, in London, in San Francisco, because these events are only happening there. But now events are happening all over the world, online, etc. And you're able to make connections from anywhere. I think, like, no matter where you are in the world, you should be able to raise venture capital and build your amazing startup.
Okay, so you care about accessibility. Are there any conferences where you would always want to go in person?
So I think that conferences are, I think some maybe, especially like, here's my context about the world, or my thesis, or our thesis at Hopin about events and about the future. The future, we think, is going to be much more personal in person, meaning I want to attend my brother's wedding in person. I want to go for a meeting with someone, a good friend, in person. I want to drink a beer with them. I want to have food with them. Whatever the point is. For business, there's events that happen all across the world. If they're not experiential, like maybe some event like a comedy show or something where I'm like really want to be involved, it's not social, I think majority of people don't want to or wouldn't want to eventually attend them in person, because it's like a meeting. You can meet, sometimes I want to meet a venture capitalist in person, but if I'm meeting 10 venture capitalists in a month, then I really want, most of them I want to do at home, because it's much more comfortable, it's much more efficient, it's much more productive, especially if I need to travel long distance to go to those venture capital or to speak to a customer who's very far away. So sales is more efficient because typically people are traveling across the world every minute for a sales meeting. Events, same thing. I think the key thing is the networking aspect, and that's what we're solving for online.
Okay, Johnny, you're also hiring, you're not just hiring people, you're also buying companies. And you bought, I think, 4 companies in total, from StreamYard for $250 million all the way to smaller companies. In these companies, you can't really control the culture. How do you implement the culture of these companies into your company? And do you see any signs that they need to be corrected?
Two parts to this. First part is, yes, it's you can't change the culture. It's harder to change the culture, but we've done two things. So one, you screen for culture before. Are these people that you would hire, the company you're acquiring? If yes, then they can fit in the culture, because obviously if you're able to hire them, and every single person you hire needs to fit into your culture or become part of the culture. And so the same thing when it comes to an acquisition. Is this company very similar to you in so you can almost merge the data sets of culture? Yes. Absolutely. And so that was the first part. The second part is, when they've entered the company, one benefit of remote versus in person is, remote environments, Slack rules the culture. So if you're all added to the same Slack and you can see the same type of themes, people being very friendly, open, active on Slack, they kind of automatically blend. Whereas in person, it's a lot harder to blend cultures. So there's another hack about acquiring when you're remote.
Okay. Last few questions, because I know we need to go now. I want to ask you about your product development and the product vision change after the pandemic. So Hopin now is on the top of the world. It's a great company. We running it on Hopin. So far, no issues. So it works well. How do you think the world will change and affect the Hopin after the pandemic?
I don't think so. After pandemic, we're not so worried about because we're excited. It's an exciting. Really excited to go back to in person. We think hybrid events are the future for the event platform. We think StreamYard is more people are going to get together and stream together. Almost all the businesses that we have are better in a world where people are able to do the things they want, because our thesis as a company stays the same. That we're mainly used for business, or less for social. Last year I wasn't able to watch my brother's wedding other than through Hopin, and that was good because luckily I got to watch it through Hopin. But it was bad because I wasn't able to be there. He lives in a different city now. I will be there if he had another wedding. But I think I attended 130 conferences this year, and I know people that have attended that many as well. The maximum you could attend, most people would attend, is like 8 in real life, in person. So I think that people, I think that it opens up, basically. It just opens it up, and we're not worried at all about. We're excited for when the world.
So you think the use case is going to be here to stay, right, for the future?
Absolutely, especially for events. Organizers it's more accessible. You reach more people, you attract more people to the events, and as long as the networking, that's what we've seen. That's why events on Hopin tend to have an 80% turnout. But it's the key to that is around networking. If organizers have a lot of networking functionality.
Yes, John. Last question regarding the future of Hopin. I want to ask you something about the way you're getting ready for the future. I noticed you are a fast learner and you're not afraid to ask other people for advice and speak to other founders. And you have a very solid board now, but it's mostly consisting of VCs. Do you plan to adjust your board for the future, or are you happy with the way it is now?
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely going to hire more independent, a much more independent board. So we're definitely going to hire a much more independent board. We've been looking at people, CEOs, and executives that have scaled companies, to a similar or larger level. And 100%. It's just a bunch of venture capitalists currently on the board. We also have Gage on the board from StreamYard.
Yes. Do you pay special attention to diversity in your company, or how do you see that?
When you try and hire the best talent, I think you end up naturally being diverse. That's really, I've seen the statistics. Because we hire from anywhere and we just look for the best talent, I think our company has really, really good diversity numbers. Compared to a typical San Francisco company, fantastic. Can it be better? It can always be better. But also, we're just trying to hire the best people, and you naturally become diverse when you do that. Okay,
last question, Johnny. You know how hard it was at the beginning for you to raise funding. and Konami is the first angels. Are you angel investing, and are you trying to give back to the community?
Oh, that's two.
Since you are now a successful founder, I know we have not enough time for meeting other people apart from building your company. But how do you see that?
Yeah. So on the second part, which is, we're trying to give it back? Absolutely, 100%. Anyone who wants to send me a DM on Twitter, probably more active on Twitter than LinkedIn because LinkedIn's crazy. So feel free, and I'm happy to leave you any thoughts, etc. And in terms of angel investing, very, very rarely. But because I don't have, I might be a waste of your time. But if you need a connection to a venture capitalist, for sure, I'm very I can always connect. I'll give honest feedback if I think in my opinion think you're ready or not. But but yes. So the answer is to both yes in some way or not.
Great. Johnny, it was a pleasure to have you. Congrats on your progress. I hope you can keep the pace. It's been amazing so far. If you just keep going and don't give up along the way, Hopin is going to be an amazing company. All the best. And if we can help in any way, let us know. We are based all over the world, the Startup Grind. So if you need to set up a local team or do a local event somewhere, just happy to help them.
Marian, I appreciate that, and we'd love to look into that. Thank you so much for inviting me. I hope you guys are also have a great time, and appreciate it.
Johnny, have a good evening.
Take care. Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye-bye. And now the audience, I would like to invite you to the last part of this event. And since Hopin V here is great for virtual networking, we're going to be testing it. But before we do, I just want to say thanks to our partners and sponsors who are helping us put these events together. I would like to say thanks to Louis Silkin. And if you are looking for amazing law firm, which is startup friendly, understands tech, David and his colleagues are going to be here. David, Naomi, Matthew, and Oz, they'll be staying here at networking. So if you have any legal questions, they are happy to answer for you. And we also want to tell you about Pentins, and we have Alan and Brent here. Pentins is a tech-friendly accounting company. So I know often people just meet many accountants until they come to the right ones, and really like Alan Brand and what Pentins is doing and the feedback we get about them. So feel free to connect with them. Next, I wanna tell you about tax credits. Not many companies know that you can get up to 30% of tax credits back. And Max and Matthew from Claim Capital can help you do just that. They are staying here as well at the networking, so feel free to join us there. And we already talked about Vira. So Patricia was in the panel, so she doesn't need any special interaction. I hope she's going to be here as well with Thomas. So feel free to have a chat about the Edison accelerator. And last but not least, we have WeWork Labs, with whom we have a successful cooperation for several years. And we can't wait to go back to physical events. We're hosting them at WeWork Labs. And Kim and Kenneth are two amazing people who really help startups scale much faster. So if you need any advice or any help, feel free to connect.